Lesson 4. Haiku. Hello everyone. Welcome to DK Ninja channel. I'm DK Ninja, a Japanese teacher who has recently dramatically improved his ability to reuse video materials instead of his language skills. This time, I'd like to introduce to foreigners haiku, a culture unique to Japan. So let's get started. Before we get started, I'd like to explain what haiku is. Haiku is. It's like a short poetry made with 5 characters of hiragana, 7 characters of hiragana, 5 characters of hiragana. You must include seasonal words. Words that make you feel the seasons in the lyrics. For example, cherry blossoms in spring, the sea in summer, etc. The above is the basic rule. However, the number of characters does not always have to be 5, 7, 5. Depending on the situation, you can also use 4, 4, 2, or 4, 3, 3. There are haiku lovers associations all over the country, and it's especially popular with the elderly. As an aside, there is also senryu in Japan, which is a short poetry based on 5, 7, 5, like haiku. The difference from haiku is that you don't have to include seasonal words. I like this senryu better because it has a higher degree of freedom. To give an example.
ありがとう。行ってきます。さようなら。
Thank you. I'm going. Goodbye. This is not a haiku, but a senryu. The reason is that there's no seasonal word. The meaning of this poetry is, thank you, for washing the suit, then, I'm going to work. And as soon as he arrived at the company, he received a restructuring report from his boss and told his wife about it, and she decided, goodbye, divorce. It's a poetry that describes the sadness of a businessman. In today's lesson, I'd like to introduce you the wonderful haikus left by the great Japanese poets. However, please note that many of them are written in Japanese ancient language, so it's a little difficult to translate them into modern language. The introduction has been lengthened, but let's get started. Number 1.
赤い椿、白い椿と、落ちにけり。
The red and white camellias have fallen. It means that this year's red and white singing battle isn't interesting. The first one already ignores the basic rules. This poetry was made when the poet watched a singing battle program in which singers representing the year gathered together and in which females were divided into red groups and males into white groups every year on New Year's Eve in Japan. Such gorgeous singers are likened to camellia, and their poor performance is likened to withered and fell to the ground. There is a theory that the reason why he used a spring flower instead of a winter one is that the program was so boring that made him forget the season. Number 2.
秋深き、隣は何を、する人ぞ。
Autumn is getting deeper, and what are my neighbors going to do? It means that I have to call the police about this. As autumn deepens, the road becomes covered with fallen leaves. If that happens, you will be injured without noticing the pitfalls set by the bad kid who lives next to your house. Therefore, it's a poetry in that he meant you should have contacted the police soon. Autumn is getting deeper means both deep autumn and deep pitfalls. Number 3.
荒海や、佐渡に横通、天の川。
The rough sea and the Milky Way lying in Sado. It means that I have to call NASA about this. The Milky Way lying on Sado means the meteor shower that falls on the island of Sado. It's a poetry made in such a dangerous situation. He decided to cross the rough seas to report to NASA immediately. Number 4.
梅一輪、一輪ほどの暖かさ。
One plum is in bloom. It was as warm as a single plum. It means that it's not much different from being naked. The poet, who was forced to live in extreme poverty when he was a child, wore very thin clothes, which was not much different from wearing a single plum. When he saw the plum blossoms, he left the memories of this time in the poetry. Number 5.
かき食えば、鐘が鳴るなり、法隆寺。
At Horyuji Temple, if you eat a persimmon, the bell will ring. It means that it has become a convenient world. Horyuji Temple, which is also registered as a World Heritage Site, is a super high-tech temple whose security system is extreme, and the bell, alarm device, rings just by stealing the persimmons in the trees. It's a poetry made when he found the pioneering existence of such a modern city. Number 6.
これがまあ、ついの住みかか、雪五尺。
1.5 meters of snow. This is the last house. It means that evils perish. This poetry was made when the poet, who traveled all over the country, defeated a 1.5-meter-long yeti who he encountered in northern Japan. It implies that, this is your graveyard. He was a famous poet and a master of spears. Number 7.
さみだれを集めて林、最上川。
Collect the May rain and head to the Mogami River early. It means that there is no time until the deadline. It's a poetry made when the poet applied for a campaign to invite the first 10 people who accumulated 10 points of May rain points to 10 nights 11 days trip to Mogami River, in collaboration with a travel agency of a local government. Number 8.
静かさや、岩に染み入る、セミの声。
The cicadas singing in the rock are quiet. It means that now there are no disturbers. It's a famous poetry made when the poet, who couldn't concentrate on making haiku because of the noisy cicadas, gave them the right hook, which he was good at, and crushed them into a rock. He was a famous poet and a master of boxing. Number 9.
しばらくは、花の上なる、月夜かな。
For a while, a moonlit night is better than flowers. It means that the trauma can heal. It's a poetry made when he used to give flowers to his lover every day, but he broke up with her in the spring and watched the moon in the fall to recover from the shock of a broken heart. Number 10.
夏草や、つわものどもが、夢の跡。
Summer grass is the trace of the dreams of the strong men. It means that something is empty. It's a famous poetry that despite achieving the best personal ranking in the world at Fortnite expresses a sense of accomplishment but also a sense of emptiness, with only summer grass spreading in front of the poet. There are still many poets in Japan who have left wonderful poetries to posterity. If I have the opportunity, I'd like to introduce them to you again. Also, it's impossible to read the poet's feelings perfectly with such short lyrics unless you ask them, so please understand that this is just my opinion. In that sense as well. I think it's an interesting part of haiku that there can be various opinion depending on the person. That's it for today.